1988 was a year of fires and forest plans, appeals and mill closures, strikes and spotted owls. The timber industry is in a state of transition. It's being weaned from a steady diet of old-growth timber and undergoing increased automation. Lumber mills and plywood plants are producing more with fewer workers, replacing people with computers and machines. Despite solid demand for wood products in 1988, we've seen one mill after another close.
What does it tell you when markets are good and prices are good and mills are closing? It tells you there aren't enough logs available. There isn't enough supply either now or that people can see in the future. Now that shortage, in our opinion, is artificial. It's like someone starving to death in the middle of a supermarket.
In a series of victories for environmentalists, the BLM reduced its timber sales program by a third to protect the spotted owl, and draft national forest plans proposed cutting the timber harvest by 20 to 30%. In addition, hundreds of timber sales were delayed last year as conservation groups filed mass appeals.
You're saying a mill close every week, and I can predict that'll happen for the next 4 to 6 weeks. They'll blame us every time. The problem is that I don't think most people are believing it anymore. They've seen those mills close before. The log decks are full. They're blaming supply, but we're watching ships head to Japan every day loaded with raw logs that can't be processed in mills.
Timber shortage is driving raw material prices up, while finished lumber prices drop as housing starts tail off and demand slackens. John Anderson, editor of the Timber Market Report Random Lengths, says the industry is getting squeezed.
A lot of people involved in the marketplace are looking at what they would describe as a tough winter ahead here when seasonal demand is down, and the squeeze that I described earlier is tighter.
Unions representing workers in the wood products industry targeted 1988 as the year to make up earlier losses. Strikes shut down 8 companies and idled 9,000 workers for much of the summer. But by the time their new contract expires in 1992, most of those workers still won't be back to 1986 wage levels. In southern Oregon, logging companies began salvaging timber blackened in last year's Silver Fire. A compromise in Congress barred court challenges to the salvage sales in exchange for stopping construction of the controversial Bald Mountain Road. Meanwhile, 4 years of drought continued to take its toll on Oregon's forests, as another 117,000 acres burned. All that provided the backdrop as the debate over Oregon's old-growth forests heated up.
We have never seen the kind of positive reaction to anything we've been involved with for 15 years as we have the effort to protect ancient forests.
Monteith predicts Congress will take steps this year to set aside some old-growth forests. In addition, the new forest plans are scheduled to come out in final form, which will determine harvest levels for years to come. And the future of the spotted owl will be decided as judges rule on the lawsuit and the Department of Fish and Wildlife determines whether to list it as an endangered species.
Senator Hatfield recently predicted 1989 would be the most contentious year in forestry yet, and there's no question that that's true.
Despite occasional setbacks, environmentalists are on a roll. In 1988, they helped pass state and federal legislation protecting 1,400 miles of wild and scenic rivers in Oregon. They're also winning in the courts and with the federal agencies. If that continues in 1989, the timber industry will be fighting just to stay even. Doug Barber, Eyewitness News.